Today is a good day for justice. And today is a good day for Minnesota. I think all of you can feel the energy in this room. I think we understand the gravity of what we do here, the righteousness of what we do here. What do you think? There it is. All right. The idea of our formerly incarcerated neighbors coming back out, which 98% do, and reintegrating back in and contributing back to Minnesota in this country is a foundational principle of our justice system. The idea that folks pay their price for the mistake they made. But in this country, we are a country of second chances. We're a country of welcoming folks back in. And the idea of not allowing those voices to have a say in the very governing of the communities they live in is simply unacceptable. We know that taking away the right to vote from folks does nothing to improve safety in our communities. It does nothing to reduce recidivism rates. It does nothing to encouraging reintegration and the leadership that we know happens so many times from folks who bring their talents and their true selves back into our communities. So making sure that over 55,000 Minnesotans are welcomed back fully to participate in our democracy, to participate in their communities. And as we've seen before, we had an opportunity after a pardon board meeting where one of the individuals who came from that pardon board said, well, with this pardon, I just might run for office. That person is a city councilman now in Minnesota. That's what we're talking about. So I just have to say, and there's too many, you see it here. We were just discussing this. There are literally people standing here and across this state who have spent decades advocating for this piece of legislation, for that restorative justice piece that was so critical, that foundational piece of democracy. And year in and year out, they continued to make the case. This year is different. This year is different. For one thing, the president of the Senate is Bobby Joe Champion. So that's different. That's different. And the members of our House are reflecting their community with a passion that we've not seen. Representative Frazier's passion for restorative justice and making sure that we see the whole picture helped bring this forward. So, I've also been told having two strong leaders, two strong women in charge like Speaker Hortman and Leader Dietzick doesn't hurt either. We have a legislature that looks much more like Minnesota and are listening to Minnesotans, understanding things like this, and people wondering. Imagine having passion for these issues, and you're going to hear from somebody today, you're going to hear from Jennifer, someone who's making such an impact, a positive impact in our community, and denying them this opportunity. And in Jennifer's case, denying it for 40 years, even with a track record of proving she is contributing in an incredible way to improving the lives of many Minnesotans. So addressing this and the folks who are here, you're going to hear from Pastor Herron, who, again, will talk about this from many different perspectives, but the clarity of the moral responsibility for all of us to welcome our sisters and brothers back in and give them every opportunity to succeed. I'm going to use a point of personal privilege on this, someone in my office who's been passionate about this from the day I met him, and someone who is the smartest lawyer I know, and in my job I need smart lawyers, I'll tell you that. Carl Procaccini is my general counsel and has worked really, really hard on this. I'm sure he's working right now. And then I'm going to, and you're going to hear from them, speaking of smart lawyers, the good thing is, as many folks know, hard to get a lawyer sometimes, and it's expensive. The good thing in Minnesota is we got the people's lawyer and Attorney General Keith Ellison in there. And since we worked in Congress together, this has been a passion of the two of us to try and see this get done, and that I'm appreciative of. And you're sure you're going to hear from him. There's somebody in this room that every single day reminds all of us that he's in the democracy business, and democracy is important right now. Secretary of State Simon and the ability to expand democracy. So I hope all of us, and I know this group is, and I would ask Minnesotans, today is a day to be in the moment. Today is a day to understand how things can be done and how decisions made in deliberative bodies and signed into law in our society can have a profound impact, not just on individuals, but our entire community and state in a positive way. This is one of those pieces of legislation. And so we're grateful to the work that was done. We are grateful to all of the advocates who are here. There are people that aren't going to be standing up here that have done this work in the shadows for a long time. And there's folks that put themselves out there, and there have been times, and there will still be those, that it's a bit of a risk when you put yourself out there and say, yes, I was formerly incarcerated, but damn it, I belong here. And this is my community, and I'm going to speak out. So that passion is something I know I'm incredibly proud of this. I know I've got a partner in this, and the First Lady and I have been passionate about this issue for a long time, and we've got that other voice that has been there every step of the way for us in our administration, our Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan.
I want everybody to just take a minute, look at the person next to you, say, we got here. We're here. We did it. And there are folks who've been working on this for a very, very long time. But I was just talking to Reverend Heron, and I said, we kept the faith. We kept the faith. And for some folks, like our Attorney General, who introduced this bill, he kept the faith. And I think as we are in this moment, as the governor said, where the legislature looks more and more like Minnesota, these are the results that Minnesotans should expect. Results that are grounded in humanity, that are grounded in dignity, that are grounded in all of us reaching our full potential, and mostly are grounded in justice. That is the work that we are called to do here in this building every single day. Right now, we are only one step away from restoring the vote to over 55,000 Minnesotans. And we know that voting is one of the most basic building blocks of our democracy. And in the state of Minnesota, we don't just believe in democracy. We aspire towards an inclusive democracy where we support voter participation and work against voter suppression. And according to the numbers in the 2018 election, 6% of Black Minnesotans and 9% of Native American Minnesotans were ineligible to vote because of felonies, compared to 1% of white Minnesotans. These disparities are unacceptable, and we know that they are rooted in inequities. But after folks have served their time, continuing to put up barriers to their involvement in our democracy does not make us stronger, does not make our communities better. In fact, the right to vote for people who represent them is one way to ensure people can get and stay connected to their communities after incarceration. I am so thankful for the work that organizers have done in barbershops, in the streets, with their families, with their neighbors, in every corner of Minnesota. And so we know that organizing works. Every conversation that you have in community and on the door and with your elected officials and changing hearts and minds, it matters. So today, let this be a testament to say, never give up. Never give up. And as someone who has family members who have been justice involved and family members who have been incarcerated, this matters so much. And when I was at Children's Defense Fund, this was part of our legislative agenda. Because we know that when families are connected to their communities, when they register to vote, when they turn out to vote, it matters. It's good for children, it's good for families, and this is just one more piece of making Minnesota the best place for children in the entire country. And I think what you can see is the passing of the baton from leader to leader as we are growing more leaders in this community. It is a powerful thing to see. We needed a gigantic room to get everybody in this space. And one of those leaders who has picked up the baton and who has run incredibly fast towards a more just and welcoming Minnesota is the next speaker, Representative Cedric Frazier.
Well, good morning, everybody. We are, as Lieutenant Governor just said, thank you for the introduction. And Governor, thank you for your work on this, and thank you for what you are about to do in the next several moments is finish and complete that last step. I was fortunate to be able to be in this moment right now, and I won't take that for granted. Secretary Simon said to me, "This is a big deal, and you should understand that." And I do understand that, how big of a deal this is. But what I will say is, it has always been a collective effort. It is the collective that has gotten us here to this moment. And it will be the collective that continues to carry us through on all that we accomplish this legislative cycle and the next cycle as well. And I understand that, and I appreciate that more than anything. And I'll tell you, I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I often tell people I'm just a poor kid from Inglewood. My grandfather was born in the deep south of Mississippi, in a town less than 2,000. I used to visit mostly every summer. And it felt like home. It always felt like the tribe because everybody knew who you were. It was like a village. And when we got this done, I called my grandfather, who's in his mid-80s now. And I said, we did it. I said, we have given people their access back to the franchise. And he said, great job. And then he talked about, now this is a man who was born before the Civil Rights Act, before the Voting Rights Act. And he began to think about it, and he said, you know, I remember that growing up, my life was better than my grandfather. I said, wait, your grandfather was alive when it was legal to own people, to own black people. But he talked about his life being better for his generation. And he said, what you're working on and what I worked on when I was growing up and I left Mississippi and went to Chicago, you're working on things that are going to make the next generation lives better. Keep up that work. So I won't be long because we got to get over there so the governor can sign this bill. So I'm going to say this to the collective that's here: job well done. Job well done. That's right. And I'm going to turn the baton over to my good friend, the people's lawyer, Attorney General Keith Ellison.
You know, friends, maybe it was 25 years ago, could have been 30. I was knocking doors in North Minneapolis. I was not in office. I was not even thinking about being in anyone's office, but I was knocking doors, getting people out to vote. And I knocked on the door of this guy's house. A woman answered the door, and then the guy came to the door. And he said, "Oh, you're trying to get people to vote?" "Sure." "Well, why?" And I told him, and I said, "Well, would you be willing to register to vote, fill out the card?" He said, I don't know. And then the lady says, he just don't want to say that he can't vote because he has a felony. And he goes, "Would you please stop telling my business?" and he says, No, it's wrong. You should be able to vote like anyone. And I said, "There's an idea." And so I remember coming back when I was in office, running for office. I knocked on the same door. He said, man, I'm off paper. I'm off paper. Can I vote? I said, yeah, we got a van out there, you know. And this guy came back with his red sticker, tears in his eyes. What does it mean to be cast out and then invited back in? What does it mean? What does it mean to have a say over the people who represent you? Because people who are prohibited from voting, they have to pay their taxes, they have to obey all the laws, they have to do everything, but they don't have any choice in who represents them. Now they do. And that's a beautiful thing. Minnesota is not on the cutting edge, folks. 2 states, Vermont and Maine, you never lose your right to vote. Minnesota joins a group of states, around 10 or 12, that say after you're done, you can vote. And we're leaving about 17 states that say, well, you've got to complete your probation and parole. Hopefully they will follow our good example. But I will tell everybody that voting is associated with law-abiding behavior, is pro-social, and is likely, I think, as opposed to allowing people to vote, we should make people vote because it would put them in a position where they can really think about who they want leading our society. Special thanks to Restore the Vote. Special thanks to black pastors. Special thanks to formerly incarcerated individuals. Special thanks to Second Chance Coalition. Special thanks to the Timberwolves in Karl Anthony Towns. Special thanks to the Minnesota County Attorneys Association. Special thanks to my friend Linda Higgins, who back in 2003, she and I introduced this bill and kind of got beat up in our hearings, but actually in the House we got it to the floor. In the Senate, didn't get that far, but we tried to kick something off, which is culminating today. And let me say special thanks to Artika Roller and the Minnesota Coalition Against Sexual Assault in Mincasa. And let me just say, this is not the end. This is the end of the beginning. The next stage is to help people know what their rights are. There's a whole campaign that awaits us right now. Are you ready? Thank you very much.
First of all, let me just say how thankful I am to be standing in this moment. There was a wise person who once said, before anyone had an opinion about me, God had a plan for me. And when you think in terms of the work that all is done, there's also another little saying that said, teamwork makes the dream work. Right? And so I do want to say thank you, first of all, to the co-authors on this bill from the Senate. That would be Senator Marty, Senator Mann, Senator Ron Latz, and Senator Umu Verbaten, who is with us right now. And I know that the others wish they could be here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Leader Dzik, who wanted to be with us. And I know that Leader Melissa Hortman is here, but Leader Dzik, who wanted to be here, she's not feeling well today, but she sends her love and gratification. And Representative Frazier has been a rock star in the House, and I want to thank him for that. And all of the advocates that have constantly said something to me, whether it was Jonay McAfee Booth calling me from Michigan saying, you got to get this done, right? To Sarah, who's here with us, and Shamika, and all the others. But I also want to say that our great Attorney General had the wisdom and foresight, even with that suggestion made by someone else. He was listening. That is a skill that is sometimes lost because people can talk and you're just at a door, and sometimes electors just want to make sure that they can hear you say, oh, I'm going to vote for you. but they don't stop to really listen to what you're saying. And he heard the call, and he and then Senator Linda Higgins, who I replaced, saw the call in 2003. And if you calculate it, that's 20 years ago. I was still an infant. I just want you all to know. I don't know, but I was still an infant at that particular time. But I also recognize this, that all the stories, I also hear my dad, who's from Hope, Arkansas, talking about this. Right? Hope, right? And my mom is from Hooks, Texas. And they often always talked about the importance. And I know that when I'm at doors and when I'm talking to people, I often use this saying. I say, bad officials are elected when good people don't vote. Amen. But now, for me to say that in the context of this room is extra special. Because they will have the right to vote. Amen. So thank you again. Thank you to everyone. Like Representative Frazier, I want to get out of the way because as soon as we get through this list, I want to see our wonderful governor get over there and sign that bill. And I promise that I won't dance or anything, but I'll be doing the fist pump. So thank you to everybody. Give God a hand praise for just being good. And thank you for this moment. And now, I'm going to call up the man who's in the democracy business, who had a commercial about it, but who talks about it. I served with him in the House and sat next to him on the floor. And so I know about his commitment, and I'm excited to bring to this podium none other than Secretary of State Steve Simon.
Well, thank you, everyone. It is a great day for democracy in Minnesota. Today, we will welcome more people to share a sacred right and a special power, the ability to choose how they want to be governed, the freedom to vote. Many of us in this room, as others have said, along with so many partners throughout the state, have worked on this cause for a very long time. I want to thank everyone whose patience and persistence made today possible. I came to see over the years that this was right for Minnesota. Not only right for those affected, but it's right for all of us. This is not some act of charity. This is good for everybody in our community because we know that people who feel invested in their community, who feel a stake, who feel a connection to their government, they are far less likely to reoffend. And even after all these years, I'm learning new dimensions of the profound effect that this is going to have on Minnesotans. I was struck recently by the description offered by one advocate who's behind me, Zeke Caligiuri. I was at an event with him, and he put it in a way I'd never heard before. I love it. He called this change a rehumanization. I love that. What a wonderful way to view what we've accomplished here today, recognizing the humanity in people who have left prison behind, recognizing the power of self-determination, and finally, after all these years, restoring the freedom to vote. Our office is ready to act today on this new law. We have already reached out to the Department of Corrections and to a number of community partners about strategies to let affected people know when and how they can now vote. We will do our best to spread the word and make a positive impact. Now, you've heard me say many times that the Office of Secretary of State is in the democracy business, but you know what else we're in? We're in the sticker business. The first kind of sticker that we do is this one. Looks like the other one, but it says, I will vote. I will vote. Now, this is a sticker that we give out typically to young people, college students, high school students. It's a way to get some interest and maybe some enthusiasm about the act that is to come in the future. But then there's a second sticker that we do, and it's this one, and you know it. This is the iconic, the classic, the simple, red and white Minnesota I voted sticker. I voted. Those are two very powerful words. And I can't wait to see tens of thousands of newly eligible voters in Minnesota pin this badge of democracy on their chest in the next election. Let it be so. Today is truly a great day for democracy. Thank you, everybody. And it's my privilege now to introduce someone who has been waiting for this day for a long time, who has been one of the primary advocates across the state of Minnesota for what we're about to do today, and that is Ms. Jennifer Schroeder.
Thank you, Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Frazier for doing all the work on the bill. Everybody's done so much work on this. It's just been a great run. I'm so excited. Thanks to this law, I'll get to vote again along with 50,000 other Americans. It's a moment that we never stopped hoping for. I and so many other people have fought very hard for this. 10 years ago, I lost my right to vote. I was struggling with addiction when a judge sentenced me to 40 years of probation and a year in jail for a drug conviction. That meant I couldn't vote until I was 71 years old. I enrolled in college and took a bus 2 hours one direction the first semester of school. I became the first person in my family to graduate from college and earned a degree in addiction counseling. I dedicated myself to making a difference in this world. I felt it was very unfair for people labeled as felons to not have a voice. The people that are living and working and raising families and paying taxes in our community couldn't vote. Voting is a civil right. The voices of the people who are struggling should not be silenced. Thanks to this law, that changes today. The voices of those who have struggled will no longer be silenced. Now I'm calling on Minnesotans who are affected by this law to make their voices heard. Go vote. Go get your red sticker and wear it proudly. I'm a proud stay-at-home mom today to my almost 2-year-old son. This fall, I'm taking my little boy to the voting booth. I'm excited for him to see the process and give him my red I voted sticker. By the way, my son's name is Chance for Second Chances, and that's what this law is giving thousands of Minnesotans today. Sorry, that's what this law is giving Minnesotans today. So thank you so much. And now I am pleased to welcome to the stage the pastor.
Amazing grace. I have to say this. The news story read, the council member that fell from grace. But thank God there was only man's grace, because it was God's grace that kept me. Today we restore hope and not just the vote. The right to vote may be guaranteed by the Constitution, but there are over 5 million Americans previously convicted of a felony who have lost their opportunity to make their voices heard, and 55,000 of them live in this state. If America is going to be what she says she is, then we need to look deeper within ourselves and know that we must move from a theoretical form of democracy to a more living democracy, where every member of our society has value. If we're going to be a just state, a just society and nation, then we have to believe in redemption and stop putting obstacles and barriers in the way to make it difficult for people to move out of the misery of their hopelessness to the joy of all their possibilities.
This is a great day, and while we know there are so many other pressing issues and needs we have as a people, from the violence of poverty to gun violence on our streets and in our schools, the greatest need, in my opinion, is healing. Healing from our grief and trauma, because we are a community of broken hearts and broken promises. But also the healing of this nation that is afflicted with the disease of hatred and strife and division. It's easy to not see the humanity in people when you give them a label. It's easy to dehumanize people when you give them a label. But when you think about it and you think that these are somebody's sons and daughters, these are somebody's nieces and nephews, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, uncles and aunts, they're our neighbors. And so we celebrate the victory today, knowing that if we stay persistent, see, this is faith in action. This is faith in action, 10 years. I want to say something to Brian Fullman and Janae Bates because they invited me into this fight. But if we stay persistent in our quest for justice, resisting the urge to quit, to hate, and to give up, but with love and courage in our hearts, we put feet to our faith and vote the right people into office and continue to work together and walk together to challenge injustices, we can slowly but surely, as we are powered by God, turn this thing around and make life better for all people. God bless you all.
Pastor, thank you. There's no way I'm saying anything after that. Nothing more. Here we go, Gilbert. Thank you.
We're going together, Brown. Get in here, y'all. Get in. Come on in.
Picture, Pastor.
Yeah, that's for her up there.
Oh, yeah.
Good job.
Oh, I gotta get up there.